The journey of a real-life goddess is one of power, transformation, and sometimes deep trauma. What does it really take to step into divine energy and overcome challenges? Let's talk about the raw, beautiful reality of the goddess path. Greetings, I am Janiqua Nganga, also known as EIJ, and head of Isis Moon. I am a high priestess and a holistic wellness coach, specializing in the divine feminine energy, manifestation, and spirituality. Welcome to my channel. All right, this is a good one. I picked this topic because it is important for me to let people know how the spiritual journey can be when it comes to challenges, especially for people who have evolved to a certain level, and who practice elevation, who have intentions of continuing to evolve and continuing to elevate. Those people who have been able to raise their frequency to a certain level, and even some who have gone through initiations, these things bring a person to a point of definitely having some spiritual power and what I want to call spiritual wealth. However, it does not omit and remove challenges from one's life. And I know that's general because people will of course be like, oh, of course, yeah, you know, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be that. But that's easily said, but I don't think that people really take into account what really happens on these journeys that we are a part of, that we have, that we accept, and that we decide we want to take in our lives. And I'd like to use some examples of goddesses, goddess stories that we know well about. There is a movie now on Netflix called Mary. Of course, because we're going into the Christmas time, we are in Christmas time. This movie is about Mary, the mother of Jesus. Now, that movie, I'm really big on, I criticize movies and music strongly. Like, I'm really big on a movie being really, you know, having all these different aspects of it that I like for me to consider it to be a good or a great movie. I think it's a decent movie, but the part that I liked about it is that this movie focused on Mary. It wasn't so much about Jesus. Of course, the birth of Jesus was put in the movie. That part of the story was added towards the end. But this was about Mary and her journey of being, quote, the mother of God. So for Christians, of course, Christians believe this to be something that is very true for them. For me, as a spiritualist, I see this as another goddess story. And with this, of course, if you know the story of Mary, you understand that the part of her and Joseph trying to find a place for her to give birth, and Jesus being born in a manger. But this particular movie, it went back further. It went back to Mary's birth. So I'm going to assume that if you want to continue watching the video, you don't mind hearing these spoilers. But yeah, for the sake of me explaining the path of a goddess, it's important to see these different aspects. And it's important for me to say these parts that occurred in the movie. But yes, it showed how it depicted how what her parents had to go through just for her to be born into this world. And it also went into her early life and what she had to endure, some of the visions that she saw. So it really showed, and again, I was going to give some spoilers, but I'm trying to curve my words. So it really did show the hardships that she had to go through. And there is a line in the movie that I really, really like. When she became pregnant with Jesus, of course, she's supposed to be a virgin, and no one believes her at first, except her mom and one of the other priestesses that were in the temple that she was staying in, like the synagogue, I guess. But her mom said something that there was a line written for her mother to say to her that was very real, phenomenal, and on point, which was, great things never come easy. Great things never come easy. And I feel like that's important for people to understand and take in when they want to understand the path of a very enlightened individual, a person of high frequency. I'm speaking of goddesses for the sake of the divine feminine energy, but in general, gods, goddesses, queens, kings, high priests, high priestesses. I'm using those terms to speak about people who are supposed to be very enlightened, very people of good character and operating well in their communities, and of high frequency, high vibrations, and spiritual power, spiritual powerful people. With that said, these individuals are to do great things if they follow their path properly. And even if you don't have any of these titles, or you don't accept any of these titles, as an enlightened and elevated person, if you see yourself doing something great in life on your path, you will face challenges. So the gods and goddesses in the stories that we know of, they were of no exception, which is good to see. When they came into physical bodies, such as I used Mary, but you can also use you can also look at the story of Aset or Isis. She went through a lot. She went through a lot. From her husband being murdered basically by his brother, chopped up into pieces, and she goes on this journey to go find the pieces of his body to bring him back together. In that journey, there are different stories, but there is one particular story that I always remember, where Aset, she runs out of money. She doesn't have money, and she takes a position, kind of like a housekeeper, or a maid of some sort, a servant of some sort in a household for a king, or a royal family. And they don't know that she's a goddess. They have no idea that she's a goddess, but they take her on. And I believe in the story, if I'm not mistaken, that there's a baby that the family has, like the family has, the wife or the queen has a baby, a small child, and I believe the baby gets sick in some way, or something is going on with the child, and Aset takes it upon herself to begin this ritual of transforming this child into a divine being. So they step in and they see that she's doing this. But this part of the story is great to me, because it shows her spiritual power, even though she did not have material wealth at the time. So her challenge at that particular time was with money, finances, material things. But her spiritual power was still there. It was still top tier. It was, it was very, very prominent and strong within her. So yeah, that's a great example from that story. And again, the Mary story, there are stories of, I'm going to throw another one in there, of course. We could talk about Oshun, and we could talk about the famous story of Oshun when she was ignored by the other Irumale. she's a goddess. She was in this particular story of Oshe Tura, this Odu, she was the only female Irumale. So for me, that means she's a goddess. She's the only goddess amongst the other male gods. And with that, they ignored her. They did not include her. They didn't see her as being significant, apparently, for what they needed to do to create the world. And that's a challenge of not being acknowledged properly by your community, by your people. A challenge of not being seen as having any type of spiritual power or spiritual worth. So with that, in that story, of course, Oshun proves them wrong. And of course, they have to come back and beg her to be a part of everything, because without her, nothing was manifesting. Nothing was manifesting. So she was able to lay down the law, you know. So we're still chanting that story till today because of that, what the challenge that she had to go through. So with all that said, and to bring it all full circle, my point in all that is that real goddesses go through major challenges sometimes. Sometimes these are traumatic events that are experienced. It does not take away from you or take away from the energy, the work, the legacy that this being is bringing into the world. It does not take away. It's just the fact that living in this physical realm, there will be challenges. There will be blockages. There will be trauma sometimes. And you have to keep the right state of mind to keep moving forward, to overcome. And if you are a god or a goddess and you have that state of mind, you will overcome. You will for surely overcome. So I think that's great for us to take in and remember and consider as we take our day-to-day steps in life, and we focus on manifesting our goals and intentions, to take in consideration the challenges that come whenever we're doing anything great.
If you're ready to transform your life, click the links below to explore my manifestation coaching programs and a range of powerful spiritual tools designed for your journey. From self-care products to one-of-a-kind jewelry, you'll find what you need to thrive. Also, don't forget about our annual Isis Moon Cultural Festival held every year here in Savannah, Georgia in April.